Okay, so welcome to my first question and answer session. So from Facebook and Twitter, these are all the questions you wanted to ask. What drew you to writing a series of historical novels, and why the period you have chosen? The short answer is I was in the bath in Galway, and I was listening to a news program and heard an American being interviewed, and he said, we invaded Iraq because of September the 11th. I thought it was amazing how myth becomes history, or lies become history, and in the weird way that writers' minds work, I thought, well, that reminds me of 1066 and the Battle of Hastings, and in the way that I think the story that is told, even in kind of history programs, histories of Britain and things, is the Norman version of events, or the Anglo-Norman version of events, and it's not, I guess, kind of the true version, and true is quite a difficult word. But anyway, I thought really we should have someone should write the English version, or the Anglo-Saxon version of those events, and that should be me. So that's kind of why I'm picking the Battle of Hastings. The original idea was to write a short novel about the year, because one thing that struck me is, I grew up in York and I never heard of the Battle of Fulford. So there's 3 battles in 1066, not 2. And I'd never heard of one, and that seemed astonishing. And then as I was researching the period, it just seemed there was so many interesting characters through that 50-year period. What happens in 1066 is because of what happens in 1016, and so a narrative that would kind of bring all those together. So that was the genesis for the story. Many of you asking this question, Steve Denton twice, in fact, Oliver Bear, John Heath, Matt Granger. When is the sequel to Shield Wall coming out? And the sequel to Shield Wall, up on Amazon, is Hastings. Hastings, for many reasons, I delivered Hastings this summer, and for many reasons my editor and I decided to put Hastings on hold for the moment, and go on to the third book. So I'm writing the third book now, and the third book is the story of Harald Hardrada, who's the King of Norway, and who ends his days at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. Loving it. What a great character. He's kind of come preformed. And so that's going to be the next book that comes out. Hastings, which will be the continuation of the Godwin story, is going to be probably coming out the year after. So in terms of kind of when and dates, this is now October 2013. I hope to finish this first draft of the Hardrada story by Christmas, and get it in time publication, with the kind of long lead times of publishing these days. It'll be finished next year, which means it'll be in the shops in 2015, summer 2015, spring or summer 2015. I'm sorry that it's a long wait. Hastings, which will be the continuation of the Godwin and his story, will be coming out the year after. And for the kind of the savvy ones among you, that's the 950th anniversary of the Battle of Hastings. So that's the schedule. Troy Christensen. My wife just started writing, and she's getting depressed because she can't find an agent. Thoughts on this? You don't necessarily need an agent. I'm not sure how soon started writing means, but I think my first book, I didn't have an agent, and I sold to a publisher, and that's one way forward. The other way, if she's getting rejection letters, is kind of just keep writing. I think you have 2 choices when you get a rejection letter. One is to stop writing, and one is to say, what I'm writing at the moment, or what I submitted to that person, is not good enough yet. And that means I need to raise my game. And that's really tough, because when you send it off, you've kind of got to it as good as you can get. But often that break, when you come back to it, you can kind of see ways of improving it. And I think that's the real test, professional writers or amateur writers who never gave up. And I collected all my, I don't have it here, but I collected I still do, all my rejection letters, and I still get rejection letters, and keep them as kind of, things that drive me on, to spur me on. So I think it's a process of keep writing, keep hoping. The publishing industry is publishing more books than ever before, and what they need is books. So have faith. You can keep writing. Troy Christensen, another one. So how long have you been writing, and how long before you started seeing success? I was lucky. I left university and went to work straight in rural China, and ended up, I wrote a book about my experiences, and this was back in 1994, when I was 23 years old, and I was lucky that China was becoming very popular, and found a publisher. So I got lucky. So I've been writing now about 20 years, with 6 books. I'm not sure, some people are much faster than me. I wish I was faster, but there you go. Matthew Harvey, have you still got the same agent for your first novel? Do you always work with the same editor? And how do you team up with your editor and agent? And do you use a researcher, or do you do it all yourself? The research question, no, I do it all myself. And maybe that's one reason, Shieldwall took me 5 years. And maybe that's one reason it took me 5 years of just knowing, of finding out how much that I wanted to know and didn't know. But I find from doing the research, I get so much kind of creative sparks and ideas. So I like to do my research. And research kind of goes from reading archaeological papers to things like looking at Old English texts and translating them. How did you team up with my editor and agent? I started off, I got a publisher. So my first book, my editor left, I think she got fired actually from Orion, between my first book being published and my second book. Nothing to do with my book, of course. She was a lovely Irish lady who took me out for a beer, and that was my first experience of publishing. So she got fired, and so when I was selling my first novel, which is my second book, it was kind of the author's dream. Went to auction, sold for a record-breaking amount, and little did I know that editor was using my book as his kind of swan song in publishing. And after the hardback came out, he left to become an agent. So my kind of early experiences were of editors leaving and leaving me in the lurch. So once I got an agent, and once the editor then left, I said, for my next book, I want to pick an editor. So she found some kind of suitable editors, and we went around, and I kind of interviewed the editors. And I've stuck with that guy. He's a guy, Richard Bezick at Little Brown. He's fabulous. He's kind of quiet, understated, but a really good editor, and I trust and like him, and that's a very important thing. I haven't stuck with the same agent because I found I was talking more to my editor than my agent. And, publishing is an odd thing in that most of the time your editor and your agent pick you. You send in your stuff to the slush pile and they say yes or no, and you go with the person who says yes because, you want to kiss them, you're so happy. So I found I was talking more to my editor, and I went through a similar process. I went to my editor and said, listen, I want to change my agent. If you've got some people you recommend, and he gave me a list, and I kind of interviewed them and picked my agent. And it's a kind of odd relationship. People ask me, what do you look for in an agent? And I joke that they should tell you how fabulous you are and take you out for a very good lunch when you're in London. And my agent, Charlie Viney, is all of those, but I like Charlie and I trust him, and he's full of ideas. And another thing, he's got a great kind of stable of writers, and another kind of historical novelist that he's got on board is Ben Kane, who's a big Roman writer. And so all those kind of things tie in. Anyway, great team, good editor, good agent, they're good friends with each other. So that's very successful.